Prominent archaeologist, painter and art historian Dr. Afif Bahnassi is one of Syria's most dedicated cultural figures who spent most of his career studying the history of ancient cultures, especially the near and distant Arabic and Islamic past, trying to develop a more acute understanding of how people lived in earlier cultures and societies. As the Director General of Antiquities and Museums in Syria for many years, Bahnassi was long involved in the preservation of archaeological sites, cleaning sand off ancient rockery and analyzing data, writing studies and interpreting findings for the public. Furthermore, Bahnassi developed a natural curiosity towards the past and the many secrets it holds, growing up to become a famous archaeologist and cultural figure who had a remarkable role in maintaining Syria's heritage and enhancing its international reputation as a cradle of human civilizations. Bahnassi was born on April 17, 1928 in the beautiful Sha'lan district in Damascus on a day he would always remember with pride, namely Independence Day. As a kid, his father used to take him in weekly tours across the city's ancient alleys, so he would visit such famous places like Al-Hamidiyya Souq, which is the largest and the central souq in Syria, located inside the old walled city of Damascus next to the citadel. The souq is about 600 meters long and 15 meters wide and is covered by a 10-meter tall metal arch. It starts at the Thora Street and ends at the Umayyad Mosque Plaza. Child Bahnassi would cross daily by the legendary alleys of Mabtouma al-Bzuriya Souq, which is located to the south of the Umayyad Mosque and is famous for its spices vendors and the many historical khans located along it, including Khan Asad Basha. Since then, Bahnassi began to develop deep passion for these historical places and would write extensively about them. He studied in elementary and secondary schools located at the heart of the old city, being surrounded by the Damascus houses, famous for their legendary gardens and courtyards, always perfumed with the famous jasmine flowers. It is worth mentioning that a typical Damascene house looks like a palace in the full meaning of the word. What distinguishes most of these houses are the paintings which decorate their walls, so much so that they look like small museums or galleries. A Damascene house, which is typical of Oriental architecture, mirrors the social requirements with farms and gardens surrounding them. Bahnassi was familiar with all these magical houses located inside the 7 gates of Damascus. The house he was born in, for instance, is just a case in point, being a 2-story house with a steep stair connecting the upper and lower rooms, solid and sealed off from the outside world. But inside, all rooms look on spacious open courtyard with trees planted here and there and a water basin in the center. The rooms are large and comfortable that Bahnassi's mother used to have a hard time cleaning them up daily. He had a second-floor room in which he used to receive distinguished guests, having windows overlooking the narrow streets of a Sha'lan district. In many of his interviews, Bahnassi would remember these glorious days of his childhood with great nostalgia and love.
أنا يعني هلأ بشعر نفسي إني ما زلت طفل، لأنه البلاطات هذه وحدة أنا بعرفها، وكنت واقف أتأملها شلون تركبت وشلون ارتسمت. بقى أصبحت البلاطات تاريخية عمرها أكثر من 100 سنة أكيد.
Bahnassi studied law at Damascus University, graduating in 1949 before he traveled to France and got a diploma in history of art at École du Louvre in Paris in 1961. He would not stop there, but his academic aspirations continued, leading him to secure a doctorate in modern art from the Sorbonne in 1964, as well as a state doctorate in philosophy from the same college in 1978. Dr. Bahnassi became the first director of Fine Arts Department between 1962 and 1971. Then, he was appointed the Director General of Antiquities and Museums, where he stayed for almost 18 years between 1971 and 1989. In one of his field tours across the National Museum in Damascus, Bahnassi tells us with much love and passion how the museum, to which he was a guardian and a leading researcher for many years, was founded in 1919, whereas the current building was constructed in 1936, with wings being added in 1956 and 1975. The facade of the museum is built from the front of an Islamic palace, which was transferred and restored as the museum's main entrance. Bahnassi would elaborate further that the museum's unique findings are restorations of the facade and frescoes of Qasr al-Hira al-Gharbi, which dates back to the 8th century and lies 80 kilometers south of Palmyra. Many other important historical artifacts can be found in various wings, such as the world's first alphabet from Ugarit and many Roman-era mosaics. The museum also contains classical Syrian artifacts, sculptures, marble and stone mosaics, jewelry, and coins. We wouldn't forget that Bahnassi was also the founder of Fine Arts Department in Syria and the founding member of the Arab Writers Union. He also was on the governing board of the Research Center for Islamic History, Art and Culture based in Istanbul. In addition to all these notable attachments, al-Bahnassi assumed an academic position as Professor of History of Art and Architecture at Damascus University since 1959.
بهالفوضى هي أنا بكتب. بهالفوضى شايف ما في عندي إطلاقا مجال إني رتب.
Bahnassi has authored dozens of influential books which brought him fame and recognition as a fine scholar and researcher, such as The Ancient Syria and Its Art and the Art of Islam. His other books included Ebla Archives, Aesthetics, and Dictionary of Art and Architecture, along with many others. His most celebrated work is The Art of Islam, which was published by UNESCO Collection of Representative Works in Paris in 1990. The volume examines the varieties of art and architectural forms in almost all the countries and areas that comprise Islam. Some of these forms, such as domed spaces, minibars, and madrasas, have rarely been compared throughout various Islamic cultures. It combines a geographical and a chronological survey of Islamic art. It reviews the architecture from Iran to China, the Maghreb to India, and traces back artistic styles from the Umayyad and early Abbasid dynasties to the Ottoman Empire of the 18th and 19th century.
يعني أنا سعيد أنني حصلت على تقدير دول العالم، ويعني أكثر الأوسمة بدرجة قائد وليست بدرجة فقط فارس. فدرجة قائد لا تعطى إلا بحالات استثنائية جدا.
Afif Bahnassi was a recipient of 13 orders and honorary certificates inside Syria and abroad, including the first prize in Islamic art in 1991. He was also honored in Germany, France, Italy, Bulgaria, Poland, Denmark, and Belgium for his important contribution to world artistic heritage. Bahnassi was particularly fond of tracing the history of Oriental artifacts. For him, such artistic objects can breathe, talk, and communicate themselves to the modern world. Each artifact has its own story and origin. He often said that if artifacts are found, they should be photographed in place, mapped in relation to the rest of the excavation unit, and later removed. Artifact for Bahnassi must be sorted, cleaned, and catalogued. Data must be organized, analyzed, and reports finalized. His expertise in ancient Oriental culture is unmatched. For instance, to understand the Islamic city, one should look at his research in this particular area. To highlight the point, he once said, most cities in Islamic world, with the exception of Cairo, followed a shared general design for houses that took climate and the humidity into account. According to Bahnassi, early Umayyad cities such as Qayrawan and Wasit, or Abbasid cities such as Samarra, were designed according to an architectural plan that ensured straight roads as wide as 50 meters. However, they did not last long because social and climatic factors forced residents to opt for more dense city models. Bahnassi has argued that roads and alleyways were planned as narrow and winding because houses, palaces, and buildings contained courtyards that let in an abundance of sunlight and air, therefore reducing the need for wide streets. Furthermore, the narrow streets provided shade and trapped cold air during the night, which was released during the heat of the day. Bahnassi succumbed to his chronic illness and passed away at the age of 89 on the 2nd of November 2017, bringing an end to an incredible, illustrious career full of contributions to plastic art, architecture, archaeology, research, culture, and other fields. His son, Dr. Kenan Bahnassi, underlined his father's continuous efforts and attempts to enlighten the new generations of Syria about its history and civilization in the face of misleading media campaigns through publishing his works and books via social network sites to be available for all. In appreciation for his contributions in the field of art and history, the Ministry of Culture held a memorial service at Al-Assad Library, during which a number of notable speakers surveyed the works and studies done by Bahnassi over the years, highlighting his role as a cultural icon who helped preserve Syria's rich heritage and influence a whole generation of researchers and academics in a variety of ways. With his long, prolific career, Bahnassi continued to reinvent himself, embracing innovative theories and introducing new mechanisms for studying the history of Islamic and Arabic art, paving the way for a new approach to archaeology and cultural history. He will definitely remain an iconoclast and an encyclopedic thinker whose contributions will stand the test of time.